Hello, I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer. I'm a family medicine and community health physician and founder and CEO of Total Weight Care Institute, where I help individuals maximize their health and wellness through comprehensive and compassionate um, changes in their weight health and to help them get healthy and lose weight, whether that weight is in pounds or it is whatever in life is weighing them down. And I also help clinicians incorporate comprehensive and compassionate weight health practices so that they can have success and earn and serve with confidence and enjoy the freedom of having their time back, having their control back. And which is very important to me. Empowerment is very much a part of what I feel is important for those of us who are gatekeepers, which is what primary care doctors tend to be. We should be. We should be the people who are often the first line of defense, so to speak. And what we do, what we say, how we treat people often will lead to what happens next. And often what I see, particularly in weight health processes, is that there's been so much shaming going on. There have been so many offhand comments that may or may not have meant anything, but when they get internalized, they often lead to poor outcomes. And so I like to say, and I don't like to say actually, it bothers me to say that I think a lot of what we talk about in terms of people having obesity often having higher mortality rates, it's not just because obesity in and of itself can cause issues. It does cause higher rates of cancer. It does cause higher rates of inflammation, heart disease, and joint disease, and others. But I also feel that because of so much shaming going on in medical establishments and by physicians, it happened to me, so I know it does happen. We avoid doctors, and therefore we don't get things taken care of early. And we all know that the earlier you get seen, the earlier something is found, the more likely you're going to have a good outcome. So if you're avoiding doctors because of being shamed, then often you visit physicians when it's absolutely necessary or when it just gets to the point where you cannot avoid people anymore. And if that's what's happening, we need to change. We are the gatekeepers. We need to change. And so that also includes understanding and using GLP-1 receptor agonists. Now, there's a lot of opinions. There are a lot of people who are for and against, which I don't understand because they are medications that work and they work well. And for anyone who sees patients in any capacity should understand these medications. They're here to stay. They're not going anywhere, and there will be a demand for them. They've been around for over 20 years. I've been taking one for over 8 years. So they're not new. It's just they're being newly sensationalized. And the mismanagement of them, the misuse of them, the inappropriate prescribing of them is getting a lot of attention when that's maybe 2% of all the prescriptions being written, maybe 2% of what the medications are being used for. They're mostly being used to help with controlling and preventing disease. That's it. But we don't hear those stories. And the reason is because we've been shamed into silence. People taking these medications because they need them are not telling anyone. Because as soon as they do, they're told they're taking it away from diabetics because they're using it for weight loss. No, they're not using it for weight loss. These medications don't even treat weight loss. They treat the causes of weight gain. And the causes of weight gain is glucose dysregulation, hyperinsulinemia, which basically shifts our food into making fat instead of fuel. And that's what they're treating. But because of the what's become almost a militancy around them and people digging in their heels with their opinions, that people are being shamed into silence unless they want attention and they want um, unless they're a celebrity who then wants to get attention. And unfortunately that's kind of skewing what is really true about these medications. And so All these deaths we're seeing, all these other things that we're being, that they're reporting, were all from misuse of the medication. They were inappropriately prescribed and they were misused. And all someone has to do when the medication is giving them a problem is stop it. But unfortunately, what's happening is that people who actually need it, who are benefiting, are stopping it also because their expectations of what the medication should do is skewed as well. And mainly that's because on social media, again, we're sensationalizing those in massive weight loss. And usually that weight loss is either probably not true, or it's being misreported, or it's a very unhealthy process and it shouldn't be happening. And if they're being monitored by a physician, then it wouldn't happen if they were monitored properly. The other is, I have a feeling that everyone's using the term Ozempic to mean any medication being used, any GLP being used, just like how we say Jello for every gelatin or Band-Aid for everything we use. We just use that name because it's the most familiar, but when really it could be a compound pharmacy. It could be, which, and there's some good ones. Don't get me wrong. There's some really good compounds out there, but there's also some really dubious ones out there. And there are people who are misusing them or using more than one. They figure, hey, if one GLP-1 works, then two would be even better. No, two will kill you. That's what it will do. But when people can get their hands on medication outside of the medical setting, yes, it can cause some issues. And people will misuse them, just like they misuse Adderall or they misuse Xanax or they misuse, painkillers. People misuse medications. And when they misuse medications, people die. Just like when people overtake medications that were prescribed to them for pain and they overdose. This is no different. It's not because it's Ozempic. It's because of the behavior surrounding the medication. The medication itself is safe. It's being blamed for misbehavior. It's being blamed for misuse. But because of that, people who actually need it are not taking it because their expectation is that as soon as they start taking it, then they're going to immediately start feeling better. They're going to immediately start losing the weight they need to. They're going to immediately have blood sugar control. And that's just not the case. The lower doses are designed to help prime your body so that you have better control, fewer side effects at higher doses. If you lose 1 to 2 pounds a week, which is the healthiest, and that's on average, so you can go many weeks without losing anything and other weeks when you lose more, but the average should be about 1 to 2 pounds a week. Anything more than that, you're running the risk of being malnourished. You're running the risk of undereating, not eating enough calories, and your body cannot sustain that for too long. It becomes unhealthy. It takes a healthy process and turns it into an unhealthy one. And so in cases where people start losing large amounts of weight, they should either cut back on the medication, on the dose, or on the frequency, because that means they're not eating enough or they're taking too much for their process. When they get below a certain weight, it should also be cut back, because the last thing you want is, like the latest, someone getting under 100 pounds. Do you know how long it takes to get up under 100 pounds? You're telling me that you didn't think to stop the medicine before then? But it's the medicine's fault, not the person misusing the medicine. I mean, come on. How ridiculous is it that you don't want to be a particular weight? You're taking a medication that makes you lose weight and you don't stop it. So let me get off that soapbox. But anyway, so one of the things that happens is people are looking at social media, watching people talk about how much weight they're losing. And a lot of times that may or may not be true. More than likely, it's not. Sometimes it's just physiologically impossible for that to happen. Many of the reports I see. And so what happens is when people aren't able to lose that same amount of weight, ooh, I just got an eyelash in my eye, that same amount of weight, they think something's wrong or that it's not working. So they stop too soon. They quit. Well, not taking a medication makes it not work. It's not a matter of taking it and it's not working. When you stop it, it definitely doesn't work anymore because you're not taking it. So it's really important to manage your expectations. Don't give up. Trust the process. Continue until you get to the point, and until you're on a maximum dose of a medication of the GLP-1s, which is 15 milligrams for Mounjaro and now Zepbound, the new one, or 2.4 milligrams of semaglutide or Wegovy, or 2 milligrams of Ozempic, then or 4.5 of Trulicity, you cannot know if the medication is going to work. Also, you also have to make sure that all your other pillars of weight loss, like sleep, like stress reduction, like getting enough water, like eating enough calories, and moving. If you can move, at best you can. Not everyone can exercise. I understand that. Not everybody has the mobility to exercise, but do whatever you can, even if it's just sitting, listening to music, and dancing in a chair, or doing yoga breathing, meditation. There's ways that you can help your body even when your mobility may or may not be um, optimal. So I know I've talked a lot about a lot of different things, but ultimately, um, medication not taken is not going to work. And you cannot tell if something is going to work until you get to the maximum dose and you take it properly in a way that it was prescribed. Now, there's someone here who says, I love the lower doses. The highest doses I got up to was 7.5 on the Manjaro. And I did lose slowly and have only gained like 8 pounds since not taking the medication in July. Yeah. And unfortunately, when you lose weight on the medication, it's actually treating something. So when you stop, what you're treating comes back, and usually it's some form of glucose dysregulation, unless your body had a chance to reset from the weight loss. And so if not everyone can reset. I actually was on insulin at one point, lost a significant amount of weight, was able to get off insulin and control my diabetes with diet and moderate exercise. I still had congestive heart failure, so I couldn't exercise a lot. But as I got older, got closer to menopause, I'm now 58, I could not drop my carbs low enough to control my diabetes. So I did go back on medication. And one of those medications almost 10 years ago was a GLP-1. It helped protect my heart because that's what it does. It's a cardiovascular protectant. It also helps against dementia. They're now studying it for Parkinson's and mood stabilization, lots of different things, not just weight loss. And it's worked very, very well for diabetes control as well for many, many years, without any problems, without any side effects, without anybody dying from the medication, because it's being used properly and prescribed by doctors and monitored by physicians as well. And so with the medication, it works and it does drop your weight sometimes, even if your um, as your disease process is being controlled. And so sometimes, even when your process is not being controlled well, you may have to do a secondary agent. But if it gets to the point where the weight loss is too great, or then the secondary agents might be pulling back on one and adding another. There's an art to medicine as well, not just the science. And sometimes with GLP-1s, there's a lot of art involved. But the other thing that happens is that when you lose a significant amount of weight, your body can reset. And so the things that used to trigger high blood sugars before suddenly don't, because you don't have as much adipose or fat cells in the body driving the process anymore. And that may happen depending on your age, depending on your gender, depending on how much muscle you have, your testosterone levels. There's lots of different factors that play into it. And what works now may not work later. So um, so I came on here really just to say that don't give up. Trust the process, but make sure it's a process from someone who understands the medication, understands the biopsychosocial ramifications of the medication, not just the biology, not just how they work, but how it affects you psychologically, how it affects you socially, and how to support you and empower you in situations where this works for you, it's healthy, you need it, but you're being shamed into silence, and therefore it's creating this environment, or it's perpetuating an environment where there's stigma around it. So I'm going to stand here and proudly say, yes, I take a GLP-1 receptor agonist. I have been for over 8 years. These are not new. And my diabetes is well controlled, thank goodness. And yes, it did give me some weight loss. And yes, I am a weight loss physician. And yes, I use it as a weight loss physician. I have been studying these medications for many, many years, using them for many, many years. And it just saddens me when people aren't getting the help they need because they're too scared or too ashamed to do that. So like I said, medication not taken doesn't work. So don't stop. And make sure you're being followed by someone who knows what they're doing, which, is always hard to tell. So again, I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer. I'm the founder of Total Weight Care Institute, and here for my medical 15 minutes. And hopefully this helps someone who is listening. Have a good Sunday or have a good day. Bye.